Honorable Chief Minister, distinguished guests on the podium, friends. The Karnataka Media Academy has asked me to speak here on the battle for factual journalism. But we live in an era of many constructed alternative realities. Okay? The giant sections of the media, which are giant corporations, have built their own realities. So, whose facts are we debating? Whose realities are we reporting? It is a very big mistake to analyze the media as we would have done 40 years ago in terms of freedom of expression, democracy, fourth pillar, fourth estate of democracy. The media, the mainstream media, are corporate behemoths. They don't give a damn about democracy or anything else. Please first let us distinguish ourselves. There is a very big difference today, unlike 40 years ago, between media and journalism. These are two very different entities. Journalism is what guys like you and I do for a living. Media are corporations maximizing profit. They are reducing journalism to a revenue stream. In that, whatever reality they want to construct to serve the ruling power, they will do that. Let's be very clear about this. Media and journalism are two different things. I practice journalism. Let me tell you, to give you an understanding of what a large corporate phenomenon it is. Do you know the value of the Indian media? Listed media. The latest figure, March 31, 2025. The Indian media and entertainment industry, they are one industry, we all know that. You can't tell which is information and which is entertainment. The industry on March 31, 2025 is worth 2.51 trillion rupees, $30 billion US dollars. That too with the rupee being so low, but still 30 billion US dollars. In the next 18 months, it will reach $3.1 trillion. This is the fantastic value of the listed media in India. Now, in 2024, it was worth a simple 2.1 trillion rupees. One transaction by one man increased the value of the Indian media by 33% when Mukesh Ambani merged Hotstar and Jio. The merger of Hotstar and Jio gave one individual control over 50 to 55% of all streaming in India and probably the subcontinent, because that is the throw and cast. One individual owns 70 major media outlets with a audience reach of 800 million. Okay? Now, his friend or rival has also begun his journey, Mr. Adani, and you can all see what has happened to NDTV in just 6 months to 1 year. So, please understand, we are dealing with corporations. Yeah? And don't penalize journalists for what corporations are doing. Now, the second part of it is that, most of you sitting here, you see ETV Kannada, my friends across the border see ETV Tamil, and they think that this is Inadu TV's Kannada branch. It's not. It's owned by Mr. Ambani. Except for the Telugu channels, all the other 19 channels of the ETV were sold to Mr. Ambani 20 years ago in a very interesting vehicle setup called Independent Media Foundation. Wow, independent. So please have no illusions who we are dealing with. When one individual probably accounts for 30% of the share of the total value of Indian media, you really have to wonder, what are we talking about? How are you going to get factual journalism? If I am a corporation, my duty to my shareholders is to maximize profit. My duty is not to introduce democracy in the Indian subcontinent. My duty is to make money for my shareholders, make money for myself. So we have to analyze the media in those terms. Though I will just digress for 1 minute to talk about one Kannada press person whom I've known, and I want to mention him. I've also kept him in my book. Some of the very different kind of media 100 years ago, the Kannada press played a very great role. And one of them who died just 3 years ago, a man whom I knew and admired, H.S. Doreswamy, from this very city of Bengaluru. Look at the kind of what media and what ownership meant. When he owned a newspaper, Doreswamy opened the same newspaper under 6 titles. So that when the government closed one title, the same paper would appear the next day under another title. People's Voice, People's Choice, People's Guardian. They would keep changing the name as the government cracked down on the newspaper, on the press. Yeah, so you had a very different, it has everything to do with who is owning the media, with the ownership of media, with monopolies. In the last 3 decades, there has been a convergence, non-technological convergence. Big media families have merged with big political families. You can look at that in PTV, you can look at that in whichever state you want, you will see that. You've had big political families merging with big business families, and big business families going into both media and politics. The media of India today reflect brilliantly the inequalities of our society. You know, we are all boasting about, we have become the 4th largest economy in the world, overtaking Japan. Your 4th largest economy, your $4 trillion economy, 211 individuals, 211 billionaires out of a population of 1.4 billion are equal to the wealth, their wealth is equal to 25% of your GDP. 211 individuals. And in those, the top 10 individuals account for 35% of that, 25% of your GDP. So this is what your media, they are the same people who own your media. The media reflects the wealth inequalities perfectly. But what it does, fails to do, it will never reflect the diversities of this society. Corporations always seek homogenization. They have to sell products. They seek homogenization. They are anti-diversity by their nature. They are anti-diversity. Look, when we are talking about nationally, the media, the so-called national press, I am yet to see one thoughtful article. I am yet to see one thoughtful editorial. I'm not talking about very decent newspapers like Deccan Herald or others. I'm talking about the so-called national press. I'm yet to see one thoughtful analysis on the language issue, on the imposition of Hindi, and why the southern states are resisting it. There is no such consideration of the feelings, the needs, the culture, the legacy of hundreds of millions of people. I'm very glad that the Karnataka government has taken a firm stand against the imposition of Hindi, and I think that's very good. But how is it represented in the media is another question altogether. Essentially, by the way, this wealth and media connection, it reflects in 2-3 propositions which I'll tell you. One, the richer the media get, the poorer their coverage becomes. The richer the media get, the poorer their coverage gets. Second, journalism is being reduced to a revenue stream. Third, corporate power is all deciding, all controlling in the media. Fourth, the Indian state, to my feeling in the last 30 years, is more and more functioning like an executive committee of corporate power in this country when 211 individuals